welcome back. This is WUB, Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes. We appreciate your being here. I don't think we take you for granted. We don't come on this program here unprepared. We don't just throw a word. We try to make sure that you leave our program with some value added, that you are able to say, boy, I'm here, so and so and so. But Krim, Mose me to talk about so and so, Nuri me to talk about so and so. We want you to be like that when you come here. We try to turn it into a kind of a education forum. And we try to blend the knowledge down so, as Mr. Henry Young was telling me yesterday, don't talk to the elite because then the ordinary people know I hear you. But if you talk to the ordinary people, whether you're elite, they have to humble themselves because they know what they say, but you know they talk only to them. So this is the station in Belize that speaks the common language to the common people, because the majority of our people are the ordinary Belizean. They're not the highty-tighty, they are the ordinary people. So we don't want to ever become a highty-tighty station where we're only talking to a little 5% of our population. We try to aim for broad distribution of knowledge. And one of the issues that most definitely affect us, even though perhaps we're not paying attention to it, is growing old, the elderly. So here are some statistics before I introduce our guests. As of 2024, individuals aged 65 and older comprise approximately 5% of the Belizean population, totaling approximately 20,953 people. This population is projected to rise significantly, rising to an estimated 16.8% by 2060. I don't think 2060 is that far away. Believe me, we are going to have a larger elder population because of health is improving, the conditions are improving. But to what extent are we seeing that improvement? We'll be bringing that up with our guest this morning. Also, life expectancy in Belize has a positive trajectory. In 2024, the average life expectancy at birth is about 73.7 years, and this is up from 68.9 years in 2000 or 2000. So in comparison to the Caribbean region, it has which has varying life expectancies. For example, in the Bahamas and the Northern Antilles, they project their life expectancy to be about 80 years. Whereas in Guyana and Haiti, the life expectancy is around 70 years. In terms of health care, which is what we're going to discuss this morning, there is the NHI and there's the Mercy Clinic. There are other services that are out there for our aged person. But what are the conditions of the age? We've invited this morning someone who has over 35 years experience in the public service, but has also, beyond the public service, as a contract person, have been working for a long time in the social sector. He is Mr. Evan Dakers. Many of you will remember Mr. Evan Dakers from the days of social development on Church Street until it became human development under Mr. Bowen, and it has developed since that time with many other directors. And I'm not taking anything away from those other directors because I have named you, but I'm saying the transition from social development to human development, first under Mr. Golson and later under the Honorable Dolores Balaramas Garcia, Mr. Dakers was there focusing on our elderly. So I've invited him to come and to have a conversation and just to present with him certain talking points so that he can elaborate and educate us on the conditions that our elders are going through in this Belize today. Welcome, Brother Evan.
Yes, Thank you very much, Brother Newey.
I appreciate your being here. We used to work together some years ago.
Yes, I remember you very good.
Yes, that was interesting times indeed. Let's say that we're looking at a steady rise in the number of our elderly persons in Belize and really across the Caribbean. What are the social and health implications of this demographic? Because it is suggesting that we are living older now than before when we died much earlier.
Right.
What are the implications of that?
First, I want to thank you and the Creme crew for inviting me.
Yes, sir.
This is my first visit here.
Is that right?
It won't be the first and the last.
No, I hope not.
I'm hoping that I can come back. Brother Newey, I just want to clarify a little statistics that you mentioned a while ago.
Okay.
It's not that what you said is not correct, but I prefer to put it in a broader perspective.
Please.
You said that it's about 5% of the population that is 65 years and older. But the United Nations utilizes 60 as a cutoff age for quote-unquote older persons, right?
Okay.
So the last statistics I saw from the census, this is our recent census, the population at 60 and over is almost 9%.
Oh, much bigger.
Much bigger. So I'm not saying that 65, those at 65 and over would be 5%, but you look at it at 60, then you get a much larger population.
Yeah, indeed.
And one of the countries in our region that has one of the highest population that is aging is Cuba. Yes, Cuba.
You mean them people where then they tell me we know what I got none for you?
Well, I won't get into that. Obviously, they know what they are doing.
Yes, obviously.
Yes, but
yeah, because I'm sorry. Yeah, I remember Cuba has a thing where they call the 100s Club, where they had a number of their population is over 100 years old.
Well, anyway, Cuba has a lot of good lessons that we can learn from them, right?
Indeed.
And I don't want to get into the regional politics. I guess that's what.
Yes.
But we have a lot to learn from Cuba, and we have to continue that relationship.
Yes, indeed.
But back to the social and economic implications of aging. You touched on it, and I will just expand. As you get older, your body starts to deteriorate, generally, right? Everybody gets old at a different rate. So you might look at Nuri and say, my goodness, Nuri, you could pass for like 60 or maybe 50.
You're serious?
Well, of course, I don't
I looked at myself this morning.
But you look at somebody else at the same age of Nuri and they say, my goodness, I mean, you look too old, you know?
Yeah,
so it varies apart. I mean, it depends on your body structure, your metabolism, and even the genes that you inherit from your families.
Yes.
But the social implications, Brother Nuri, is a bit frightening in my view, because we are not preparing ourselves for that aging population. And I want to segue into the whole issue of healthcare. I know we're going to touch on that a little bit more, but
yes, that's my next question.
We have to be very careful, because the statistics are showing that a high percentage of older persons are not able to meet their basic health needs. Now, I know that the government has instituted, and it's going to be countrywide shortly, the National Health Insurance Program, NHI, right? But NHI, as you might know, focuses primarily at the primary healthcare level, and quite likely there will be some secondary healthcare issues, right? But as you get older, Nuri, and this I'm talking from experience, you're going to have some very, very complicated health issues that will have to be dealt with at the tertiary level. So I don't know exactly what is the overall plan for the NHI, but like I said earlier, its focus is mostly on the primary and to a limited extent some secondary areas, right? Pension, Brother Nuri. The statistics are showing that less than 40% of us, older persons, 60 and older, have access to a pension. And I'm talking about people who might not have only worked in the public sector like me. I am a pensioner. But you have people who have worked in the private sector. A number of those entities sometimes do not have any pension scheme. So you retire at 60 or 65, you get a lump sum. No, you have to know how to maneuver that money. You don't know how long you're going to live, Brother Nuri. Then you have those people who are working out there. Primarily, I'm talking now in the manual labor sector or the household sector as caregivers and so on. And there is a high percentage of people who have not been contributing to the fund. Not because they don't want to contribute, it's because the employers do not contribute.
Oh, man.
In other words, there seems to be an attempt from some employers to dodge that, right?
Isn't there a penalty?
It's a two-edged sword, because if I don't contribute for you and you go and report me, then you're gone. And as I said earlier, it seems to be more in the lower level jobs. People who might not have the education, to get something of much more substantial effort. So you find that your flexibility is limited. Boy, if they send me home, I don't know what I want to do. I have my wife or I have children, in the case of single mothers, So you find that those people, in my view, fall through the crack. Now, they can go and contribute on their own, but the money is too small. So there is a program, and this is a program that I was involved with when it began, which is called a non-contributory pension. Now, non-contributory, as it says, is that these are people who did not contribute to the fund. So those who have contributed will be basically subsidizing them. Now, when that program was established way back, I think it was, I can't remember now, but at least about 20 years or more.
I remember. It was one of the Musa
It was one of those election promises. Yes, right. Nothing wrong with that, Brother Moore, because those programs exist in the Eastern Caribbean, in Barbados and in Trinidad. The problem, Brother Nuri, is its sustainability. When you set up a program like that, I would have thought that you would have done some long-term planning in terms of how we're going to sustain this, because people are living longer. You said it a while ago. There are more older people coming on board. So what I was told, I have been to a number of forums, and I brought it up, and I was told, well, Mr. Dakers, at some point that program will have to be phased out because we can't maintain it. So I said, so what will happen to those people? Because those people will not go away, and you're going to have new ones coming in who will fall through the crack. So then I was told, well, we'll have to look at another program, maybe through the Ministry of Human Development. No, I think you have heard about boosts and those types of programs. So all I'm saying, Brother Nuri, is that a concern of mine has to do with the financial ability for older persons to sustain themselves. And I'm focusing specifically at those who do not have any access to a pension.
Boy, you're making some extremely important, and we hope policymakers are listening, because one of the concerns, I could remember it as far as Prime Minister Dean Barrow's concerned, was that how are you going to sustain a very good program like NHI when in fact the finance necessary to make it a long-range program was just not there. This government has invested even more in the NHI with the promise that they're going to expand it. But it's still like they are facing the challenge in the United States right now with Social Security. How are you going to maintain this for when we are at 2060? Will we run out of money and not be able to pay because people are living longer, and the young people who are putting money into the system, will it last? So I heard the Prime Minister say that schemes such as Bolido, which thank God it has gone back to a public thing, and the millions and millions and millions that private sector took out of that scheme, that money now will be put into NHI. But you're also saying that the non-contributory pension for people who can't afford it, maybe some of that money ought to be put there also.
Thank you very
Very,
much,
very
Balan.
important.
I personally hope and pray that the policymakers are listening.
Yeah, well, they usually are. They're not telling
I hope they are listening, and because I heard the amount of monies that are being collected now.
Yes, it's big money. It's big
much
money.
Bigger than what I thought.
Yes, it's huge.
So
it's
please,
huge money.
I mean, that money.
We like to gamble, and so if we gamble, and they used to have a thing they call, what they call it, Cliff, syntax. So, we need to know that when we do that, at least we could say, well, boy, the money they go to help, youth in sport is going to help with the aged, it's going to help with NHI. And just before we go to the break, you're saying something else that I've heard said recently, that we need to think that NHI ought not to be for the Tylenol dispensary at the lower level, but that we ought to find some other way. Part of it is putting the responsibility on the recipient themselves and making sure that we keep that money for tertiary level, because you got people here who can't get dialysis, all right? You got people here who have other tertiary level health problems, but they can't afford it out of NHI because NHI is so limited to trying to make sure that then they dispense the primary care, etc., etc. But we'll discuss that more when we come back from this break. Come back. Our guest today is a person who's what you refer to as institutional knowledge. He is 35 years in the work of social development in this country, now being called human development. And so he really the fish from River Bottom, telling us exactly what's going on in that sector when it comes to the elderly. And we left from the last commercial break by talking about this issue of the high costs of health care when our elders begin to experience not just primary issues, not just Tylenol issues, but when they start experiencing more what you call expensive issues, which ends up going outside of the hospital and trying to find it in the private sector. But let me say, so he doesn't compromise himself, that one of the things that has been noticeable for a long time are doctors who are double dipping. In other words, they're committed to work maybe because of bond in the local hospital, but they're also in the private sector. And then many, many people will tell you, and it's not all of them, will tell you that they only give you a limited thing in the private sector, and then you end up having to go to the to the private sector, and you meet the same doctor in the private sector, double dipping. Something is wrong with that, and especially when we're dealing with poor people who can't even afford to go to the private sector. So I want to ask you again, when it comes to the challenges of health care, we know that there are government programs like Help Age, we have programs like NHI, but what are some of the challenges that older persons face when they are dealing with these health challenges?
All right, Brother Nuri, I will bring it down to what Help Age is doing, right?
All right.
Help Age has 10 branches countrywide. And then we have 2 residential facilities for older persons. One in Belize City called Sister Cecilia, and one in Cayo called the Octavia Wade Center.
Yes.
In the districts, we call those centers adult daycare centers. The word day underlines the fact that people don't really live there. It's a place where they socialize and then they go home, right? In the case of the 2 facilities I mentioned, Sister Cecilia and Octavia Wade, we have an agreement with the Ministry of Health, and we have a visiting doctors that come in from time to time, along with nurses, to deal with our patients. We also have a very, very active relationship with US-based doctors, and usually from universities. These are students who would come with their professors, and basically they want to get the experience of a third world country, as they say. So from time to time, we would have those teams coming in. Of course, they have to be filtered through the Ministry of Health first, and then they would come. Now, at the district level, it's a little bit more challenging. In the case of Belmopan, and by the way, I'm the chairman of the Belmopan branch, we have been able to establish a good relationship with the Western Regional Hospital. And in our center, we have a doctor's room. So we had arranged for a doctor to come in at least twice per month. Now that system continued for about 7 or 8 years. And then last year, I was informed that unfortunately we don't have enough doctors, Mr. Dakers. So what we at HealthPace Belmopan is doing, or has done, we have gone into the private sector, and there are still good people out there, brother.
Oh, yes, sure.
And we have 2 private sector doctors coming in to HealthPace Belmopan twice per month. Now, in the other districts, it comes down to the individuals who are running those branches. So that if you are, for example, in Dangriga, we try to encourage the chairpersons and their committees to liaise with the Southern Regional Hospital. We have a branch in Toledo, the same thing with the hospital or the people down there, right? I want to mention that while we have a branch in almost every town except San Pedro, we have a branch in a village, Hopkins. Yes, and it's a very, very active branch. Hopkins has a polyclinic. So their relationship, we try to encourage that contact with the polyclinic and of course with, again, the Southern Regional Hospital, which is not too far. Hopkins and Dangriga, I don't know, maybe about 10 or less miles, right?
Yes, indeed, not too far.
Again, Brother Nure, the level of assistance that we get, we are not complaining, by the way. The focus is primarily at the primary healthcare level. And in the case of Belmopan, they do referrals for us to the Western Regional Hospital. Same thing with the 2 institutions, Sister Cecilia and Octavia Waite. If we have emergencies, we can easily call the hospital. In the case of KHMH in Belize City, and in Cayo, the community hospital there, right? Because you have to remember that these are institutions that have people at different levels of health care, and you might have emergencies after working hours. So it wouldn't be nothing for, let's say, 2 or 3 persons have to go to the hospital in Cayo after midnight, or in the case of Belize City. So that type of relationship exists. Again, the level, as I said, hopefully we can increase it, but
up a little bit.
I am happy so far with what we are getting, because in the past we were not getting much. But there is definitely room for improvement.
What about in the private sector now? Because those that you're mentioning now is access provided by the public
sector, right.
Do you know, or can you speak about the care being given to the elderly by private sector? I know in the Belize River Valley that they have some, I don't want to call it old folks home because that's old language, but they have homes that are designed and they look as though they're focusing a lot on the diaspora, where they want to send their elders from the States.
Well, but I knew you were segue into another era, but I will bring it up.
No, I want you to go there.
Yes, it's institutional care.
Okay.
And I'm almost certain that you're referring to the institution called Mycello Blue. Mycello Blue is in Gardenia Village.
Right.
And it is a privately run institution. It is run by a couple, Mr. and Mrs. Craig. And their focus is primarily people who have reached what we would call the end stage. respite care, and in other words, hospice care.
Yeah.
Usually from that, you know,
Yeah,
God, you know,
right.
you go to
Yeah.
to your maker, right?
Yes.
That is the only one that I can think of, Brother Nuri, countrywide. There was an institution that was developed in San Joaquin Village, Corozal District. Unfortunately, that institution, for whatever reason, did not operate within the guidelines that the Ministry of Human Development had put down in terms, because there are guidelines to
Yes,
follow.
of course.
We have to follow certain guidelines, right?
Right.
That particular institution, as far as I understand, they were not operating within the guidelines. And to cut a long story short, I think it has become defunct.
I see.
But
I see.
yes, we need more of that type of institution.
So that's an area that are
Yes.
diaspora Belizeans that might be looking for
We
investment.
definitely,
That's an area.
that's an area.
Because as you know, in the United States, you know, these homes are very, very, very popular. And of course, some of it comes out of the fact that the extended family idea is not as popular today as it was, say, in the 40s and the 50s. We are just losing it now since like the 90s,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, because we had granny home, we had grandpa home. We had them right there until they passed. And even the children grew up understanding this is your grandpa, this is your great granny, etc. But we, in this modern age, the new thinking is that them people here that want nuisance, and I got no time for you. I love me, but I can't have them wrong because, like, for example, if I want to have my party and I have to push in, I want to leave room. So they're now getting into that American idea, and I'm not condemning it nor criticizing it negatively. I'm just saying we are evolving to the point now where there appears to be a market for elderly care that is affordable for people who are in the income bracket, that they can afford to send these people there.
All right, let me just stick a pin there, Brother Nuri,
Okay.
and give you kind of a little analysis of
Please.
the institutional care that we envisage at HelpAge.
Okay.
We are not doing this alone, by the way, because of course, government of Belize, through the Ministry of Human Development, has the overall mandate for institutional care. So we are complementing the government, right?
Okay.
The home in Hattieville that is called Golden Haven,
Right.
that is run by the government through the Department of Human Services.
And do patients live there or
They live there.
They live there.
It's a full time.
Oh, okay.
What we are faced with right now, HelpAge I'm referring to now, is that we are getting people at different stages of aging, and we have to have the proper staff and equipment to cope. What I'm talking about is this. In America, they have what they call assisted living. A facility that is called assisted living is a facility where you can do your basic things, bathe, you can walk, or even if you can't walk, at least you can move around on a crutch or in a wheelchair. And then you have what they call independent living, where some of those same expatriates would come, or people, Belizeans coming back home. They want to have their own little quote-unquote space.
Yeah.
So that is also on the table. The other stage, of course, is what I referred to earlier, where you have people who have reached the end stage, hospice. But what is happening in Sister Cecilia and in Octavio with, we have a mixture of all these people, Brother Nuri. And it has become a challenge for the staff. It has become a challenge in terms of the financial resources that we have. Because when you reach a stage where you can't help yourself, you know, the demands are higher.
It's like a baby again.
Thank you very much, Brother Nuri. You are dealing with adults who are behaving like a child. A big issue of late has been an increased number of persons with dementia.
Yes.
And dementia can come at any age.
Yeah, indeed.
But traditionally, it usually would start at a later age, right?
Yeah, yes.
And we have seen an increased number of our residents, both at Sister Cecilia and Octavia Way, have various stages of dementia. So you might come in there and all you might have is just a memory problem. Maybe you repeat yourself, but we can cope with that. But when you come in there and you have violent tendencies, you want to break up stuff, you want to run away, or you have the other side where you want to just stay in bed all day,
Yeah, just sit there.
then you have a problem, Brother Newry.
Yeah.
So the vision that we have, and we have to work with the government of the day, is to set up a tier system so that we can have an institution or institutions that focuses at those 3 levels. So if you have somebody who needs respite care, you don't send him or her to any institution, you send him or her to where that particular...
So what kind of diagnostic is being done to make those kinds of decisions as we speak now?
That's a weak area,
It
Brother
doesn't
Newry.
exist.
Yes,
And then
that's a weak
what
area.
kind of training is required for you to be employed in a care system? Or do we just take any person who wants
Brother
it?
Newry, you hit it on the nail there, Brother Newry. That's a challenge. And I want to repeat myself. HelpAge is complementing the government of Belize. And we need to work in a cooperative, in a collaborative approach with those, with that ministry that has responsibility for that area. I am saying this in the context that I believe that relationship can be improved.
Yes,
We need to improve that relationship.
yes.
Because if we are going to be doing this, we can't do it by ourselves.
Yeah,
And at some point, you have to have a legal framework.
yes, clearly.
HelpAge don't have that mandate.
Yeah.
That mandate comes from the government of
Yes,
the day.
yes.
So I am saying this now that we want to have a reset. I'm talking about computer terminology
Yeah,
now.
that's why.
There has to be a reset, Brother Newry,
Yeah,
between the NGOs that, and I'm talking specifically of HelpAge, and the local authorities.
Yeah.
Like I don't think that relationship has been fruitful for both sides.
I'll put you in a kind of a spot here. On a scale of 0 to 10, where is the priority?
As far as HelpAge is concerned,
Yeah, well, as far as the care, institutional care, both at government and private sector for our elderly.
Brother Newry, I will be very candid and I'm not going to pretend. It is less than 5.
Oh my God.
I am not going to pretend at all. Brother Newry, we have been asking for certain things, financial resources, Brother Newry. Our subvention has been stagnant for over a decade.
Oh man.
And
you see why people
it's
are afraid
almost
to
as
get
if-
well, Cliff? You see, like when you talk about get well, you don't get fear of age because of yourself, but you fear that I can't afford this and feel this and that. We'll take our next break, and when we continue our conversation with Mr. Evan Dakers. We now open the phone lines. We'll continue the conversation with Mr. Evan Dakers, a person who knows what he's talking about. You can tell, refer to no kind of notes. He understands this issue, and he's putting out valuable information, especially if you have somebody who fits into this category of the age. A few weeks ago, we had Dr. Sosa here talking about the onset of dementia. This is the area where dementia is most observable, is in our aged population. But wow, listen to what he's saying about our age and how we take care of our age. So if you have a question or statement for Mr. Dakers, we open the phone lines now at 280-5848, 280-5848. We talked a little about social isolation and the neglect that some people feel, that you don't care about me again, and so I am increasingly depressed because even me children and grandchildren not got time for me. They more depend on the social media thing and I got no time for granny, even though they tell you go look after your granny. So and this is not Belize.
Yeah.
It's a worldwide, no, I shouldn't say worldwide, because there's some cultures that the aged is respected.
Right.
People know you're about to go into the ancestors and they almost think, why you say something good for them when you get there. So they have a culture of making sure that you treat the elder because one of these days you're going to be old. But we seem to have gotten out of that. We seem to be more focused on fun, and me, and I want to get there, and I want to get there, and you're a bother. So I want to ask you about this idea of social isolation and neglect that is a challenge when we are addressing the concerns of our elderly.
Well, Anuri, again, I don't have the documentary hard evidence in terms of what I will say. It is based on observation and my interaction with the branches, right? I would first want to say that we need to look at the ethnicity of our clientele.
Yes.
There is a difference in terms of how some ethnic group treats its elderly, right?
Yeah.
In the case of Belize and in the case of Helpage, we basically covered 3 or 4 main ethnic groups: Creole, Mestizo, as we would say, Hispanic, Maya, and the Mayas would include both the Quechua and the Mopan. And I would throw in the other groups, smaller groups, East Indian, and to a lesser extent, maybe some expatriates, primarily Caucasians, but not much. So I would say it would be the Creole, the Mestizo, and the Mayas, right? Based on my observation and a little bit of studies that I did, because I did do some research, the breakdown of the family unit seems to be, and I want to underline that word because I don't have the evidence to back it up, more prevalent in the Creole and the Garifuna. Sorry. Yeah, you want to answer it?
No, please.
Yeah, I forget to mention the Garifuna
please.
as well. Yes, so it's Creole, Garifuna, Mestizo, and the Mayas.
All right, good.
The breakdown seems to be more prevalent in the Creole and the Garifuna ethnic groups.
You mean?
In terms of the family not pulling and taking care of their elderly. But a major contributing factor, and again, this is based on anecdotal evidence, seems to have been due to out-migration. We have had some major out-migration from way back, but I think the major one started after Hurricane Hattie, when quite a number of adults, including my own family members, they went for greener pastures, and I don't have a problem with that, Brother Newrick. I guess you gone through that as well, right?
Yeah, I was pulled out when I'm a young dog.
So you don't have no control over that.
Yeah.
But all my uncles went,
Yes.
and the same with the Garifunas. So that meant that you had kids growing up. I grew up with my grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that, well, my mother wasn't there, but it was just, well, that's the way it has to be.
Yeah.
And the same thing with, as I said, the Garifunas. So the other ethnic groups, while they have also migrated, it was not as in those among percentage-wise that the Creole and the Garifuna sectors, the evidence is showing.
What was the impact of that then?
And the impact meant then that a lot of the older folks end up with grandchildren who obviously, well, they are not into taking care of granny and grandpa, and they got no time for that. And you find that the family members most of them went, in case of Belize in America, they basically were just sending boxes and barrel and money for their older folks. Now, that's fine to a certain extent, but what we have found out based on evidence now, that if you only will just send clothing and cash, but you don't have that bonding, that emotional bonding, it doesn't really help that older person. And we have found that out at the two institutions. In terms of once you put an older person and you don't come around, all you do is just send the money to help page. And the money is due, all right, I'll send the cash. And you maybe visit him or her once a year or twice a year.
Once a year?
Yes, we have had cases like that. Then it's an emotional breakdown, Papa.
Of course.
So you have people there who, when I would go, I go to the one in Kayok, as I live in Bemopan.
Yeah.
And when I would speak to certain people, you know, you would feel, you could see the pain in their faces.
Yeah.
When last have you seen so and so? Oh, Mr. Dakers, I don't know, but he's all right. They try to cover it up. Oh, he's all right, she's all right. Oh, don't worry, I get a call from him or her, you know.
Yeah.
That is part of the problem, Brother Nuri.
Wow.
As I said, the other ethnic groups also migrated, but it seems to me that even though they migrated, they would come back. And that bond seems to be still evident, particularly in the Maya and the Mestizo. In fact, in the rural areas, you can still see it.
Yes.
You know, you go to a home and you can see extended family. You see the granny and the grandpa, and you know, and in the case of the Mayas, you know. But it's a sad situation, and well, it's going to be very interesting now with the recent policies of the Trump administration, because it seems there's going to be backflow now, if you want to call it that.
Yes.
And people are coming back now.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are going to be older persons. And we have to prepare to how we're going to deal with them, especially if they don't come back with any resource.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that all of you guys coming back are getting social security.
Oh yeah, that street full of gold was a lie. So you are really
you can talk from personal experience.
Absolutely.
But all I'm saying is that we have to prepare ourselves.
Yeah. Because
we have people coming in already, even before Trump got there.
Yes. And
I believe more of them will be coming back home.
Yes, indeed. But also let's look at policy making now. And this has been a problem with both ends. When it comes to the policy makers, you don't have the aged there helping to form policy, nor do you have the young there forming policy. So the youth is isolated as another young, who don't understand, or the age is saying, oh, you're too old. And so we have in the middle there a group of policymakers that can't relate to either one of these poles. So how are these concerns that you're articulating so clearly this morning being addressed? If we talk that on a scale of 0 to 10, the priority for the aged is less than 5. So how is it going to move?
I'm going to move into an area which I touched on 2 days ago. And what I'm referring to is a paper I did in which I basically critiqued Helpage Belize's partners and stakeholders. And I will share this with you afterwards. I will leave it with you.
Yes, please leave it.
The issue of policy making for the elderly rests with the Ministry of Human Development, and specifically to a mechanism that is called the National Council on Aging. This mechanism was established while I was still in the ministry around 2003. I retired in 2008.
Okay.
And the rationale for that council is that that council is responsible for coordinating, well, first of all, formulating, planning, and implementing policies that impact the older sector of the population. Now, that council consists of a combination of government, NGO, private sector, and what they call CBOs, community-based organizations. In terms of the older person directly involved, HelpAge would be one. There is an organization which, in my view, we don't hear much about, called Voice. And then you have others like the Red Cross, YWCA. While they are involved, they are not exclusively focusing on the elderly. Because as you know, YWCA deals with young people as well, right? Red Cross deals with a range of ages. But exclusively focusing on the elderly on that council should be HelpAge and that group I mentioned called Voice. In my humble opinion, that mechanism is not working the way it should. And to put it in a nutshell, it is not participatory and it is not inclusive. What I mean by that? There are a number of major projects and programs that were presented by this council, but it was, in my view, it was already baked and handed to us. If any consultation was done, it was kind of what you call token consultation. A very good example, Brother Nuri, is recently, and maybe you don't know this, the country of Belize acceded to a very important convention. The convention is called the Inter-American Convention on the Protection of the Human Rights of Older Person. The region we're talking about is Latin America and the Caribbean. That particular convention, Brother Nuri, in my view, had limited input from the organizations that sits on that particular council. I could talk about HelpAge. There were some token consultations, and there were some regional meetings that were held in the region. We had limited participation in participating in that process. And moving on up to when it was presented for quote-unquote blessing from the government, again, we were not a part of that. I'm saying this in the context that HelpAge has been around from 1984, Brother Nuri. This is our 41st year. We are in every town. We are also in a village.
But you're not invited to make substantial contribution to a primary document like that? But what causes that marginalization? Why would you not be? Why would that not naturally be mandated?
I think you need to...
40 odd years for concern about elder people,
well,
and it's still not listen to
you need to talk to those people that are responsible.
Oh, man.
And I brought it up because we had our 40th annual general meeting virtually in Belmopan, and it was done virtually because we were supposed to have had it November last year. We had some setbacks, so we pushed it back to March this year, right? But I decided that let's have it in Belmopan virtually, but my focus was we need to have a reset. I mentioned that earlier in my discussion, because we are not only talking about HelpAge people only, we are talking about the elderly countrywide. And while I don't want to knock any other organization that is working with the elderly, Brother Nuri, we need to come together and share. If I don't know where you to do, then I can't really know if I am duplicating what you are doing. And that's basically what is happening.
So the right hand don't know where the left hand do kind of thing?
They can tell you that. I am a part of HelpAge. We have a representation on that council, but we feel that there were evidence that we were not included in many of those processes that dealt with that particular convention. Now, that convention has major implications, Brother Nuri. Social, financial, you name it. But if we were not fully apprised of what those implications are, then how can we participate in something like that? It's a done deal. We don't sign on the paper, and that's a regional document. No, that's just one example. I won't get into the rest because we're going to be here all morning, right?
Of course.
But that's an issue.
Yeah.
So that was brought up. I did an analysis of the other sectors, and to give you a brief overview, at the community level, we have excellent communication, particularly with the elders at the ground and with those NGOs that we work with. We have excellent participation with the business sector. In fact, this is our strongest sector, in particularly during certain times of the year, in particular Christmas and special occasions like Mother's Day and so on. The business community come in big time. Now, in the public sector, Brother Nuri, I divide it between the traditional ministries and departments and statutory boards. The reason for that is because while we have major concerns with our parent ministry, the statutory boards now, we have excellent relationship with them. I'm referring to just two, the Social Security Board and the Social Investment Fund. The Social Security Board over the years has been very supportive of our feeding programs. They have upped their application process now, so we have to, do a project proposal, but the point is that we have access once we can show them that we deserve that money. The Social Investment Fund has been very helpful in terms of infrastructure development. The home in Bemopan, which is called the Hayes Hutchison Center, the finishing funds came from that fund. I was still working there at the time, so I know personally about that.
Yes.
And we have had other branches around the country who were able to benefit from those two statutory bodies.
All right, we're going to take our final break. When we come back, we'll only have time for a few comments, and the phone lines will remain open in case anybody. But I must say to you that the information that you've shared today has been extremely valuable to me, and I'm sure others have also benefited from it. So we'll take a break, and we'll come back with Mr. Eben Dakers.
Enhanced service and faster sickness benefit claim processing are at your fingertips with SSB's healthcare feature, accessible via the My Social Security self-service portal. Your convenience during illness is key. Now your doctor can certify your period of illness, and your employer can confirm your employment details digitally, eliminating the need to visit our office. But wait, it gets better. You can also review the medical certificate provided by your doctor in your My Social Security account, along with real-time processing updates, keeping you informed. To ensure a smooth process, always review your electronic medical certificate before you hit submit. Upon submission, your employer is notified via email of your claim submitted to SSB and must respond within 48 hours for your claim to be automatically processed. For more information, check out our guides on our website and YouTube pages. Online sickness benefit claims become mandatory within the first quarter of 2025. Social Security at your fingertips.
Prepare for the heat and stay cool with a Reamer Grey air conditioning unit from Benny's. Choose the right BTU unit size for your bedroom or living room and enjoy complete comfort. You can also save money with an inverter unit that is energy efficient. When the heat is on, stay cool and comfortable with an affordable, dependable AC unit from Ream or Gree. Available at Benny's. Quality and savings.
At Atlantic Bank, we stand as more than just a financial institution. We are your partners in progress, dedicated to fostering your success by providing tailored solutions to micro, small, and medium enterprises. Your successes are our triumphs, and every success story deserves to be celebrated. We pledge to stand by you every step of the way. Today, we celebrate the values that define you with your unwavering dedication, steadfast commitment, boundless innovation, resolute work ethic, and unyielding ambition. We will navigate challenges, seize opportunities, and continue building the future together.
Take a deep breath. You feel that energy coursing through your body? That's because of me. I am the rainforest. I produce the air you breathe. I make it rain. I'm also your pharmacy. I'm home to more plants and wildlife than you're ever going to see in your lifetime. I work hard day and night, taking in all the carbon dioxide you produce and turning it into life-giving oxygen. My personality is singular. My biodiversity is mind-blowing. My generosity knows no bounds. But then, so does your greed. I give you everything I have for free. I don't want thanks. I just want respect. I want you to stop acting like I'm just bush. I want you to stop treating me like dirt. I want you to see life, not lumber. I want you to always be able to come to me and find your roots, to unwind, and yes, to always be able to breathe deep. That's a privilege many will pay for, but it's not about money. It's about having a future.
Thank you very much, Mr. Evan Dakers, for a wonderful conversation this morning. There's so much more to cover, but I think you have touched many, many buttons today. And those who listen or will listen after the recording after, maybe on Facebook or YouTube after the show, will certainly gain a broader appreciation for the challenges of getting old in the country. And it's something that we need to pay attention to.
Right.
I thank you very much for being here because, as I said, you come with from fish from river bottom type of analysis, because you've been there, done that, so to speak. I'll give you the last few minutes to give your closing comments, and then we'll move on.
Good. Thank you very much, Belanure.
Hold on. I finally, Lord man, is this a call for Mr. Dakers? Good morning. Is this a call for Mr. Dakers?
Yes. Salam alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. You only got about 2 minutes there.
Yeah, I'll do it quick.
Please.
I just want to greet you and the gentleman that gives such a wonderful program.
Yes.
I somehow feel like I am a part of that situation I am in now. I'm in Coruscant because I've been elder, being homeless and landless. The Human Development doing a very good program, but I just, because I'm a part of the program of Human Development, but I also believe they need supervision in the area I am, because 3 consequences, Nadine storm, Zero storm, Beryl hurricane, in Corozal, and nobody come to attend or look after me, so they need supervision. But wonderful program the this young man presented.
Yes, he did.
My respects to him.
Yeah.
Also,
let me ask you.
Yeah. A lot of young people, in my experience, they have no love because they believe that they don't have no responsibility over the elder because they are here not by their own, but by the elder.
Yes.
It's so sad, and they say they're Christian.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, just before you go, you are also visually impaired, right?
Pardon?
You have an eyesight problem, don't you?
Yeah, that is my problem. And because now I cannot work because of that. I've been blind since 2019. So now as a surgeon, I have no land, so I become homeless. And I have been no choice to come to Coruscant here at a relative house that live in Canada. But as I say, the human development doing very good work. But the people in charge of human development in Coruscant are not paying attention to people like me. Nadine's son, Sierra's son, Derek, Hurricane, the Prime Minister said he's supposed to look after every other person with disability, but no one came to me on those few occasions.
Yes, sir.
Peace unto you, brother.
All right, peace to you, Brother Ramadan. Yeah, so we end on a kind of a reality check there that there are many out there listening that also have these challenges. Look, Carl, when the program is ending, I can't disrespect the program that's coming after us. So maybe you can call tomorrow and make your comment, caller. So the last word is yours, as I said, brother.
Yes, Brother Modi. I want to take this opportunity to thank all those HelpAge members that participated in our annual general meeting, which was held 2 days ago. It was held virtually, but we had participation, I would say, of about 90% of our branches participated virtually.
Very good.
I also want to thank the Executive Director, Ms. Ivorine Bulwa, and her team. We have a small secretariat that coordinates all these activities. It's only about 3 full-time persons I have there. But Ms. Bulwa heads the team, and then we have an accountant, Ms. Dalia Chan, and we have Ms. Marisha Setina, who is our secretary. Those 3 persons do donkey work. I mean, it's hard work.
Yes.
They are not being paid much, by the way, but I think it's a labor of love, brother.
Yes, of course.
I also want to take this opportunity to thank our partners. And I mentioned that we work from the community up. So in every district, we have established partnerships at the individual level as well as at the NGO level. And of course, we move up. And as I mentioned earlier, the business community, kudos to you guys, and we are hoping that that relationship will continue. I also want to thank the public sector agencies. I mentioned earlier that we have excellent relationship with at least 2 of those statutory bodies, SIF and SSB. And most importantly, I want to extend a hand of cooperation to the Ministry of Human Development, and specifically to the National Council on Aging. We need to come together and we need to try and understand what exactly this particular body is supposed to be doing. If you all have on paper what you are supposed to be doing, then in our view, it is not being done. So we are extending a hand of cooperation to the National Council on Aging. Let us sit down and understand where we are coming from, because at the end of the day, the overall objective is one, to improve the quality of life for Belize's elderly. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Evan Dakers. Very educational, full of information. We appreciate your presence here today. And we are good people. Belizeans are good people. We know we got one sector that is crazy, and it's not the street boy to talk about. I'm talking right up the scale. Insensitive, unsure. Some people might be getting on it for you. Yeah, Devon today, that's our problem. Is that we're so ego-driven in some areas that we cloud out even good information. I don't think he was doing anything malicious or anything that he brought forward today to expose what's going on with older persons as bad. It was good. And sometimes we need to broke the egg to make the omelette. And if we don't broke it and constantly the walk wrong it delicately and have all these little, what they call sacred cows, then we're going to be in trouble. I thank you, brother, for coming in and making it real. And we hope that those who should hear will in fact hear your voice.
Thank you very much, brother.
All the best. All the best.